This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. We have a packed show for you today. Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press is going to jump on with us. We'll chat it up with Mike on the Jets offseason and the aftermath of the player exit interviews. Scott Arniel and Kevin Cheveldayoff as well. Speaking of Chevy and Arnie, did see both of them at the game last night. Tough one for the Manitoba Moose, losing 4-1 to the Milwaukee Admirals despite outshooting them a pretty wide margin. Connor Rabchak's going to jump on with us in just a minute, and myself, he and Michael Remis kind of discuss what we saw last night down at Canada Life Center. Paul LaPolice coming on to talk about next week's national team for flag football camp here in Winnipeg, and hoping to get a bunch of people out to see the squad on Saturday, May 2nd. We'll also go to Boston and get ready for tonight's crucial Game 3 between the Sabres and Bruins with Joe Yerdon. Speaking of the Moose, Parker Ford of the Manitoba Moose is going to join us as well in hour 2 of the show, and Jake Bowen-Moss from Coolbet before tonight's NFL draft, round number 1. So it's going to be a good one. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to you podcast listeners and everyone that's with us on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Also want to thank our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Great people over at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, of course, the Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get your tickets now at trihospitaldream.com, St. Vital Dental Center, Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, and the Manitoba Building Trades and the Manitoba Federation of Labor. Welcome to everybody in chat. What's going on? Michael Remis, how are you?
Doing good. I'm tired, man. Again, I thought I would, without the Jets in the playoffs, I wouldn't have any of these late nights. I wouldn't be occupied all night watching hockey. But no, I can't turn away. Stanley Cup playoffs is on. I am in overtime, double overtime, no matter how late it is. I can't bring myself to tap out. I know there's people out there who say, you know what? Double overtime. It's been fun. I got to work tomorrow. I got stuff to do. I'll never do that. I'll never tap out a double overtime. It could go to 4 a.m. and I'm still watching. So I'm a little tired, but I'm here, pumped to talk hockey.
I'm with you as well. I mean, we'll get to the Moose game last night in the American Hockey League playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets farm team. But yeah, afterwards, man, we were treated to a couple beauties. Wild game in Edmonton. A real scare that Connor McDavid might have been hurt significantly. He didn't look right. That was one of the most egregious giveaways you'll see in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs from the best player in the world. And after they battled back to tie the game up, gave it away in the third period, and the Anaheim Ducks get it. But as you mentioned, double overtime. It was Dallas, Minnesota. And man, just before we bring in Connor Ream, I listen, you know that I hate the Wild, and I would love nothing more than to see this team blow it again in the first round and be out despite all the hype going into the playoffs of what Bill Guerin's done. But even I had a soft spot for some of those Minnesota fans last night. You know, you show up to the rink in St. Paul, for an 8:52 puck drop. And then the game goes almost 2 full periods of overtime and you lose. I mean, those people were legitimately walking out of the XL Energy Center probably around 12:58 now on Thursday morning, knowing that they had to be at work probably in 7 hours and then having to chew on such a significant loss on home ice to Dallas after getting off to such a great start in the series.
Man, it was they showed it during the broadcast, the anniversary of Andrew Brunette's 2003 overtime winner against the Avs. You thought there was going to be some overtime magic for Minnesota at home. You know, they had power plays, so many of them in overtime in the first two. They couldn't get it done, and they started getting into their own penalty trouble. Quinn Hughes interference and Danilo Yurov. Of course, Hustler, of course. Yep. Puck over glass in double overtime. It's
best penalty in hockey.
It's almost a guarantee that is going to be a result in the winner, and it did. Wyatt Johnson with the winner. Power play, the story of the game for me. Dallas goes 3 for 8, and Minnesota 1 for 7. And they had nothing going on. And I don't know if you saw this tweet right now from Mike Kelly, and they played like 3, 4, 5 periods of hockey last night. How many inner slot shots against did Minnesota have? Check out this chart here from Mike. Connor, you're going to be on the screen. Look at this. 0 inner slot shots against. That's the high danger areas. Huh. Dallas protecting the house quite well yesterday. And yeah, I didn't think Minnesota had that many dangerous chances at all. So could it be another addition to the lore of Minnesota sports heartbreak, where you have the 4th best team in the league, but get matched up against the 2nd best team in the first round, and yet again Minnesota eliminated in the first round? Could it be again? We'll see. Still another game or at home for Minnesota. Game
well, they're
4.
playing for their season. I mean, if they go down 3-1, I do not like their chances. And to be honest, if they go down 3-1, I'm not even sure it gets back to the XL Energy Center for Game 6. So that game, now I think they've got, do they have 2 games? Yeah, so they're going on Saturday. So they will have 2 days off, to probably an off day today, rest, come back. But, I mean, that's a heavyweight series right now. The hockey's been intense. I mean, I know they didn't have the inner slot shots. Kaprizov had a beautiful opportunity in overtime and put it off the post on the power play. But then, yeah, you're exactly right. Like when Yurov put it out, and I jokingly call it the best penalty in hockey, and I know some people hate it, but it was abused beforehand. Everyone knows the rules. It's black and white. You put it over the glass from your own end, you're getting 2 minutes, and there's nothing you or the refs can do about it, and Dallas ended it in overtime last night. Tough one for the Penguins as well. They got off to a nice start, got a goal early, and then it was all Philly, and Philly is now up 3-0 in their series in this incredible storybook season for the Penguins, when no one expected much from them all year long. It seems like it struck midnight for the Cinderella Pens, and they are on their way out of the playoffs on their next loss, unless they can string 4 in a row. Let's bring Connor Rabchak in, who was in the building last night for the Manitoba Moose game at Canada Life Center. Connor, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Thanks for having me on the program today. I also toughed it out last night for double overtime. There's worse things to have to stay up for than playoff hockey. So, and hey, we got a nice little reward seeing Minnesota lose. So, hey, we stayed up late and the Wild lose. And yeah, after that Moose game, which again, first period, Moose maybe didn't play too well. Final 2 periods were kind of all over Milwaukee, but didn't get the result they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games that, they're down 1-0 early, and then Brady Martin, who I believe that was his first American Hockey League game, he did get some NHL games at the start of the year. He makes it 2-0. And like, to the Moose credit, I mean, they really did push. I mean, there were some times where they had ozone time of 2 minutes, 3 minutes with a change. The issue was, for all of their 43 shots, they didn't have a ton of real grade A looks. And I thought Milwaukee did a really good job of letting Murray see the puck. They did a very good job of blocking shots. I mean, it was 43 on the net. There was a whole bunch of others that, were attempts. And it was obvious for a team that's been somewhat offensively challenged. The Moose were doing everything they can to generate chances and put pucks on net. But some solid goaltending and some really good work in front of the net made that difficult. So, listen, the final shots were 43-24. I'm not sure that was totally indicative of it. There's probably some score effects involved. But the bottom line is that this team has had a tough time scoring goals all year, and it was really on display last night. For sure. And like the shot on goal count being that lopsided is pretty impressive when you think about the fact that it was 13-13 at one point, middle second period. Like from that point forward, the Moose were throwing everything on net. And to your point, Huss, I agree that a lot of it was low percentage. A lot of it was from far out. They were looking for screens, looking for tips, looking for rebounds, and it never really came. Milwaukee did a great job boxing out the slot, making sure Murray could see it, as you alluded to there. And look, we can talk about how well the Moose played in the final 40 minutes, but even Mark Morrison said after the game that the first 20, 25, first 10 minutes of the second period, first half of the game, really, they weren't up to par. Milwaukee took it to them, and Milwaukee jumped out to a lead. They did a great job protecting the middle of the slot. All the Moose had a lot of the time was firing it from far out. Parker Ford gets to the middle of the ice and scores the Moose's only goal in that game, which was a nice goal, but it was one of the only times the Moose were able to get to the middle of the slot. So they'll look to do more of the same, I would say, on Friday when their season is on the line, but obviously more of an emphasis. And Mark Morrison even said this after the game, more of an emphasis on getting to the dirty areas, getting to the middle of the ice, and getting some more quality looks as opposed to the quantity, because the quantity was absolutely there last night, but they only got the one goal and didn't get the result they wanted. Yeah, it was Parker Ford that ended up scoring for the Jets. The Moose. He'll join us a little bit later on today on the program. And, I know he spoke after the game, said they were still in a positive mindset. They know they got their backs against the wall, pretty clear what they got to do. And that's win in front of the home fans on Friday night. It was interesting to see a bunch of, the players that might be in the mix next year for jobs. I thought Braden Yeager had a pretty solid game. He was playing with Brad Lambert. The guy, to be honest, that really stood out to me, though, last night from where I was sitting, Connor, was Lucas Wallin. Yep. Glad you brought him up. They signed him to the free agent contract. He came in, played 6 games. He had a goal, his first pro goal, and 2 assists. And I was asking Mark Morrison about him yesterday to tell us what he's seen from him so far. And listen, they've got 30-odd players with them right now. The fact that in 6 games he showed enough to the coaching staff that he is in the lineup, I think speaks for itself. You look at some other picks, like an Alphonse Frey, not in. And this is the team that's without Ville Heinola, who's not coming back, without Elias Salmonson. For Wallin, just to be in the lineup, I think says a lot about what he's done so far. And I got to tell you, he said yesterday he loved, and again, it's so generic or cliche, but loved the way guys compete. We saw that last night. He was a pain in the ass. He was on the puck. And he did not look at all out of place playing with Braden Yeager and Brad Lambert last night from where I was sitting. Totally, Huss. I was sitting next to Ken Wiebe up in the press box. In the middle of the third period, we both looked at each other and said, I think Wallen's been their best forward tonight. Easily for the Manitoba Moose. You saw the speed. This was my first live viewing of Wallen, and the speed just jumps out and the compete. And when you pair those two things together, he's hard on the forecheck. He's in the corners. He's winning pucks and getting it to Braden Yeager, getting it to Brad Lambert, which is resulting in offense for that line. But this was a player I was unfamiliar with, of course. And, he's only played 6 games with the Manitoba Moose, now 7, including this playoff game last night. But he was very, very noticeable in a good way for the Moose last night. And I'm glad you brought up Braden Yeager as well. There was a chance in the first period where Braden Yeager lines up a shot, kind of fakes it and slides it to Samuel Fogimo, who has a wide open net and fires a one-timer. And it just goes off a Milwaukee defender's stick and out the crease.
Like Murray was completely out of it. He had a wide open net, just barely deflected off a Milwaukee player's stick. But if that goes in, we're all talking about how amazing of a pass it was by Braden Yeager, the no look backdoor, like, yeah, it would have been amazing. So I thought Yeager was really good as well last night.
It's funny you bring that up because I was sitting with a couple friends and that happened. And I looked over to them and said, like, that was a big league pass by Braden Yeager. And you know, at times this year, like that sort of offense and that creativity has been tough to find with Manitoba. But I think he certainly looks like he's gained some confidence from his time with the Winnipeg Jets. And I'll tell you what, Brad Lambert, I thought maybe at times tried to maybe do a little bit too much. But he had that one play, which was reminiscent of the goal that he scored recently, where he took the puck in and just ripped it. And it was a beautiful shot, just the slightest couple of millimeters too far to the side, basically hitting the crossbar post corner. But he had his moments as well. But I kind of thought that we'd walk in and we'd really be focusing on 29 and 13, Yeager and Lambert. More and more, I was drawn to number 33, Lucas Wallin, seeing him for the first time.
Yeah, totally. And I agree on Lambert. There were times where he was trying to do too much. Maybe they had numbers in transition and he just kind of put his head down and drove the net when, you know, maybe the right play is to drop it or use the options or use that second layer of offense. But he had that chance where he rang it off the bar that you alluded to there. Walling was, you know, disrupting plays in the corner, winning pucks back for that duo. Braden Yeager playing a responsible 200-foot game, creating offense as well. And the Moose missed on their power play, Huss. That's been a big story for them this season. They had the worst power play in the AHL, 11%, 32nd best power play in the AHL. Yeah, it's been rough. So I know, like, it's easy to compare NHL to AHL. You see the Dallas Stars, their power play is so elite, and like it won them that game last night. They scored 3 goals on the power play in small sample sizes in playoff series and best of 3 playoff series, which the Manitoba Moose are in. A hot or cold power play can absolutely just win or lose you a series. It really can. It has that effect. So, I mean, it's been 11% through the regular season. It didn't connect last night. If it's able to maybe score a goal or 2 on Friday, maybe that helps them keep their season alive one extra day. But it's been a storyline really all season long, how their power play, how ineffective it has been.
Well, and listen, you know, we're in the playoffs right now. The margins between winning and losing sometimes is a bounce here, a bounce there. You cannot be getting killed in special teams. And you mentioned the Dallas Stars and what they were able to do, the winning goal, taking advantage of a power play opportunity in double OT. Exact same story in the Edmonton Ducks series. I mean, Edmonton goes 0 for 4. Anaheim goes 2 for 3 last night. Anaheim's power play through 2 games against the Edmonton Oilers is running at 60%. And man, what a scare last night with the McDavid business. I mean, I still don't think he was right in the third period. Like, no. I still can't believe that ridiculous turn. Like, that'll be as bad of a giveaway as you see probably in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. And a normal, confident Connor McDavid is not giving that puck up at all. He's whipping around and he's getting some speed and he's gone. And he just casually, blindly flew it over to the side where no one was there and bang, bang, it's in the net. And that was really, really costly. But going back to special teams, it is so crucial right now that you cannot be on the wrong end of a lopsided ledger when it comes to the man advantage.
Huss, get this. I don't know if you tuned into the EST post game last night, but after the Oilers lost, I was like, hey, let's see Tommy and the gang fire it up. They were all in agreement that might have been Connor McDavid's worst game of his career. Like, straight up. They like Tommy, they were all saying like, oh, I didn't even want him out there in the empty net sequence because he was actively hurting the team. And I was watching the game. Like, I didn't, and I'm not making these massive sweeping takeaways.
They are so spoiled in Edmonton.
I know. I was like, wow, this is the takeaway tonight, I guess. Like, Connor McDavid was awful. I guess that's like shocking to me that's even possible. But obviously he has the ankle issue. I agree with you. He looked hesitant. Not that he didn't have the burst, but he was almost scared to try it or push it. After the game, obviously, he said he's fine. and he's going to play through whatever it is. But yeah, special teams, one way or the other, can absolutely swing a series. It's something that's keeping the Dallas Stars, well, not keeping them in. It's the reason they're leading this series over Minnesota, despite missing Rupe Hintz, their top line center. How many teams would be screwed without their top line center? Dallas is like, we're fine. We got a great defense core, and our power play is going to score twice tonight. So we're good. And we can go into Minnesota and win a game like that last night. So it's pretty impressive how big of a factor special teams can play in these playoff series.
Well, and listen, these games are getting nasty. And, we talked a lot in the final kind of dozen games of the regular season, how things have been ramped up, how there was a lot more fighting. I mean, the teams were being really, really aggressive. And, in addition to being able to score more goals and all that, like, I can't help but watch these games and think about the Winnipeg Jets and just how much of that edge is missing from even the top players on this team. I mean, we love Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Josh Morrissey, but I mean, these guys are not guys that are going to be, shall we say, in the middle of things the way so many teams are right now. And, I think there might be a few guys that are added to the organization this year that we see don't have big numbers, or, like, I can't get over VL. Like, remember VL played for the Moose?
Yeah.
He's out there with a 1-goal lead with 2 minutes left in Anaheim for the Ducks.
That's shocking to me.
It
like
was
he was a
multiple
AHL like
shifts.
spider guy. Like that to me was weird.
Multiple shifts in the last in the last, and we went through his numbers, and he played 30 odd games. He had 3 goals. Of course, we'll always compare those numbers. Yes, exactly to that, but. Some toughness that you can count on in particular situations, maybe not doing offensive things, is like another area to put together a complete team, of which the Jets have a lot of work to do when we get to free agency. Maybe not the top dogs on the list, but, you see so many players make an impact right now in the playoffs that we didn't talk about at all during the regular season, that they can make you, a much more formidable opponent when things and the rule book often gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's it. And you still see players that are smaller, maybe don't have that edge, making a big impact, like the Quinn Hughes and the Lane Hudsons, like the superstar defensemen in the National Hockey League. But there is absolutely a need league wide for players that can bring that edge, play physical, handle physicality when it's the opposing team forechecking them, and still contribute offensively. Like Porter Martone has come in as a 19-year-old and been this revelation. It's because he's 6'3", 200 pounds, can play with a bit of that edge, a bit of bite, and he's got the offensive skills to play with skill and score goals and go to the dirty areas. Like, I agree. I think you might have said this on Lock Shop Huss, or maybe on WST over the past couple of days here during the playoffs. But outside of the like true generational talents in the National Hockey League, I think the most coveted asset, and this is probably the Florida Panthers effect, because their roster really up and down is full of players like this, is the effective, like elite, not superstar, but elite players like the Brandon Hagels that can play, score 30 goals and fight and play with that snarl and play with that edge to hang in the playoffs. Like, I think that is a very coveted asset league wide.
Yeah, I mean, we just went through that 2016 draft on the Lock Shop, and we were saying if you redrafted it, where would Hagel be? And he's probably a top 5 pick. And it was a pretty good draft. I mean, you're basically talking Matthews, you're talking Matthew Tkachuk, Charlie McAvoy, maybe Clayton Keller's in that mix. I mean, Hagel right up there, and that's a guy that was a 6th-round pick that wasn't signed by Buffalo and then ended up going to Chicago. And then a year later, Tampa, who knows a thing or two about players and what it takes to, do things in the playoffs, are trading 2 first-round picks for him. Connor, great stuff. It'll be interesting to hear from Parker Ford later on today. And then no tomorrow if the Moose can't get it done tomorrow night. Should be a fun one. I know you'll be there, and we'll see if we can get to a WST Sunday Live that is actually talking about a game that afternoon as opposed to putting a wrap on Moose season.
Yeah, that would be great. And it's fun. Like, if you weren't there Wednesday, go down Friday, even not looking from a Moose perspective. Like, the Milwaukee Admirals, the Nashville AHL team, they have a ton of their top prospects playing. Joaquin Kimmel, Brady Martin, 5th overall pick, went one spot ahead of Porter Martone, and that's a big topic in Preds land right now. But yeah, I mean, the Manitoba Moose backs against the wall. We'll see what kind of lineup changes there are. I saw Dave Minuk of Illegal Curve was down at Moose practice today, and Elias Salamonson was skating in a regular jersey. So hopefully that means he's fully cleared and ready to go and able to play tomorrow night. That would be a huge boost for a blue line that, in my opinion, needs it for the Manitoba Moose. And do we see an Alphonse Frey? Do we see any of these other players really slot into the lineup, and how can the Moose play with their season on the line? Hopefully we have a game Sunday afternoon. And until then, lots of playoff hockey to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll catch up in the next couple of days and look forward to the big show on Sunday morning with you and Liz, 9 a.m. Mark it down, folks. Put it in your reminders and turn your notifications on on the YouTube channel for the next edition of WST Sunday Live. Connor, have a good one, pal. Thanks for jumping on.
See you guys. Take care.
All right, we've got lots of hockey to talk about. We are going to go to Boston and get ready for this Buffalo and Bruins game tonight. Mike McIntyre is going to join us. We are also going to have Parker Ford jump on the program. We will get to the NFL draft a little later on, but coming up in just a couple minutes, we will have the coach, Paul LaPolice, jump on for a minute and fill you in on him bringing Team Canada and their big camp to Winnipeg, and hope that you can join us. That is coming up in just a moment right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Hey, Bob, you hearing the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollies.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at Rollies.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that girl taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Big event coming up for our men's flag football team that'll be heading to the Olympics in 2028 at Princess Auto Stadium next weekend. And to talk about it, the man with the plan, head coach Paul LaPolice joins us now. Lapo, welcome back to WST. What's going on?
Good to see you, Andrew. Things are great. Yeah, really excited about next week. So this started with, certainly Wade Miller and Football Manitoba, Bill Johnson, executive director, really, spoke to our high performance director, Warren Craney, when he was in the city and said, hey, we'd love to host this event and we'd love to help the men's national team. So shout out to those guys for helping us. Yeah. So what's happening next week? Starting, players come in Thursday night. We have practice Friday, Saturday, and one practice on Sunday. So this is the 30 top players we feel in the country that tried out throughout the provinces. And some of the guys who traveled with us last season and did some training sessions was in December and March. So we feel the 30 top players in the country will come. Our whole staff will be in and evaluating players, and then we'll drop our roster from that point.
With the interest in flag football, the incredible growth of it at, youth levels, and the addition to the Olympic Games, there's so much momentum for this. And I know you're sort of planning to hopefully expose the team, the program to a lot more people, kind of like you did with that big kickoff to training camp back in 2012 when you were the head coach of the Bombers.
Yeah, so way back in 2000, it was leading up to the season. And, we had a successful year the year before, went to the Grey Cup. So we really I always wanted for the players to have a great experience, especially the first day. We always tried to say, can we make this like an SEC spring football game, first practice? So in 2012, I believe, Andrew, you had the article, 8,000 Bomber fans showed up for the first practice. The Premier of Manitoba, I remember being on the sideline with him. So, hey, Webb Canoe can come around and hang out, and we can get Scott, the mayor, to come down, maybe hang out with our flag football team. What we're asking is, hey, it's a great game to watch. So on Saturday, May 2nd, we have two practices. Let me double check. Practice one starts at 10:45. Our second practice will start at 3:15. So we're inviting everybody. Practices are open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But Saturday we're going to try to get as many people down there. Let's try to get a couple thousand people to come watch the national team. There's a lot of talented football players. You got Anthony Auclair is a name some people will know, 6'6", 235-pound tight end for 6 years in the NFL. Jackson Tuchinski, local guy, University of Manitoba, not doing anything. He'll be on the sideline. But there's a lot of names you'll recognize from CFL camps. It should be a great opportunity for people to kind of see what flag football looks like at the IFAF level. It's 5 receivers, it's basically 5 players on offense, 5 players on defense. And we're going to try to make it as big a day as possible. So let's get as many Winnipeggers down there.
The last time we talked about a few of the players, obviously Michael O'Connor, former CFLer, who was the quarterback, but you mentioned Jackson Tuchinski. I was really intrigued when I heard his name, because this young man is like an incredible athlete. We've seen what he's done as a quarterback for the U of M Bisons with just an incredible career. He's also been on the U of M Bison basketball team as well. And talk, if you could, just a little bit about the potential that Tuchinski has to potentially be on Team Canada at the Olympic Games, and getting great athletes from football and how that relates to the flag game, which is obviously inherently different in some ways.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So, Jackson Tuchinski and Dominic Horvath are 2 Manitobans that were on our roster last year and are competing to be on the roster this year. Now, Jackson's a little bit different story because he's signed with the Edmonton Elks. So he's under contract with the Elks. So I've been in contact with the Elks. Like, he's just going to come. He's going to sit in all our meetings. He's going to be on the field, but he's not going to practice because I want him to have the best opportunity to make the Edmonton Elks. If he turns into a practice squad player, then there's maybe a conversation we'll have about it. But what does he bring? Part of the flag football game at the international level is multiple quarterbacks. Because when you lateral back to a quarterback, there's no longer a 7-second clock to throw the football. And that a quarterback can't run with the football unless it's one lateral happens to him. So now Jackson can run with it or he can throw with it. So when we had him in some situations, in the spring when we were training in San Diego. He really did a good job of that. But he's also a big guy who can play some receiver too. So that's what you kind of want. That's what you in the United States, Mexico, the top 2 teams in the world play with multiple quarterbacks, and that's something we're trying to develop. So yeah, Jackson's been, I'd love to have him on the field, but I need to give him every opportunity to become an Edmonton Elk because he's under contract with them. But he's been great.
Paul, for accomplished players in the 3-down game, pros as well, what are the biggest challenges from moving from the helmets and pads and hitting 3-down game that we've grown up with to flag?
Okay, so on offense, here's one big one that guys really don't understand at times is like you don't have any pads on, so they don't want any contact. So what happens is like you catch a ball and you're trying to make people miss, and then you try to span and move, but you better be careful with all your moves because if you end up running into a defender trying to pull your flag, you're going to get the foul. So, there comes a point where, okay, avoiding people, making people miss is good, but you can't run into somebody. So a lot of offensive players, but what is that? Why is the penalty on me? Because you have to, it's almost better just to stop when get yourself cornered on the sideline because you could create a penalty. On defense, I would say one of the biggest differences is obviously understanding how to pull a flag and how to corner an offensive player and use the sideline as your friend to make sure you put a position where it either goes out of bounds or you pull a flag. Couple other things that are different is the field's very different. It's only a 50-yard field with 10-yard end zones. And you have 4 downs to cross. You have 4 downs to cross the midline, which is 25 yards. And then you have 4 downs to score. So that's kind of the situational football as it goes. But for some of the, there's a lot of nuances in the fact of you only got a couple of receivers. So you've got to kind of space the field accordingly. You got to create mismatches wherever you can. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of learning for me too.
So the selection camp is going from Thursday, starting on Thursday, but the on-field work will be on Friday. And then the big day that we're hoping to get a lot of Bomber fans and football fans out is Saturday at Princess Auto Stadium for the 2. Once you get this done, Paul, I mean, how does the summer work? When are you guys playing and how difficult is it juggling maybe some of the other schedules of some of the players depending on what they're up to outside of the national team?
Yeah, first and foremost for these players, some of the things that is, people have to understand a lot of these players have jobs and they work. And, we've tried to do our best to try to help defer cost to them, but sometimes there is a cost that goes into this. So hats off to the players that set up and do this. What happens next is we will take, this roster will drop to somewhere down to 20. Then we will take a group to San Diego in June where we'll train for a week. And then we're going to have a friendly with the United States. Obviously the best team in the world, 5-time world champions. So we'll scrimmage them. We'll have a friendly with them on Friday night. Probably the same. It's what's called the International Bowl. It's where we fortunate enough to beat them in their first loss in 8 years last year. After that, we will come back and we've got some more training we'll do in July. And then in August, we'll spend a week in Montreal, and then we will fly to Dusseldorf, Germany for about a week and a half. And then that's when we'll take a roster at 12 players. And then we will play in the World Championship. The top 2 teams will get Olympic bids. So on the men's and women's side. So the United States already has an automatic bid because they're hosting. So, the United States is void out of that, but the 2 highest ranked teams besides the U.S. will get automatic bids to the Olympics. And there's 6 Olympic bids going out. The other ones will be achieved in 28. So it's real important to get it done this time, hopefully for us, to make sure we're in that world championship combination, because then it gets real. You got to wait almost a year and a half to continue to build your team and your roster.
Hey, I got to ask you to maybe pull the curtain back. As the guy that's sort of putting this program together and getting ready for, a big, very important camp, how much work is going on behind the scenes right now? Just the things that maybe people wouldn't think about to get ready to bring the whole squad in, especially with the numbers that you'll have in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have what we've tried to do is we've tried to create I always try to say this, that, we try to be the 10th men's professional football team, right? There's the 9 CFL teams, and then how we operate, trying to make sure our players understand the gravity of the situation, what high performance looks like. So we try to be the 10th professional team. So we have an equipment manager, right, who's got CFL experience. We have an athletic therapist who has CFL experience. Our video coordinator we've been worked at a high level. Our coaches all have some high level experience in coaching and what they do. So I lean on those guys a lot, but there's still a lot of work. We've done a really good job of trying to, in 1 year, increase what we want to do from a facilities wise. We closed a deal with Nike to be our official sponsor through the Olympics, a huge, great partnership with the Nike Corporation. And they've been a great partner for us. So we're just trying to continue to grow the game, and it's growing exponentially, especially on the women's side. So our women, they've already had their ID camp. I believe they had 50 women. They'll do the same thing. They'll drop their roster down, travel with us to Dusseldorf, Germany. They're, I believe, ranked 4th in the world right now. Very good program. And you can see it, like in the United States, multiple organizations, multiple colleges are starting women's flag football as a scholarship sport. So it's booming and it's getting bigger. So we're just kind of happy to bring this to Winnipeg. We're happy that it'll be a lot of fun. We're happy to utilize the facilities of the Bombers. We think it's great and be a great experience for our players. And so let's get everybody out there, right? Let's get everybody, as many as we can, on Saturday, May 1st. Now, if you watch all our socials, you'll see the announcements of where practice is and everything. So all that will be posted next week and every day. So you track of that.
We'll throw the socials and the links in the description of this video. Make sure you give the team a follow, as well as in the chat right now. And hopefully we can catch up next week when we're a little bit closer. Again, it's actually, I believe the Friday is May 1st. So Saturday, May 2nd.
Yes, sorry.
Is the day. Yep. 2 practices. Let's get some butts in the seats and check out the Canadian men's team for the selection camp set for Winnipeg at beautiful Princess Auto Stadium. Hopefully they'll have some nice weather for you, Lapo. It's sort of been on and off, but I'll tell you, it's like 22 today.
Might have to bring a sweatshirt. That's okay.
We'll see it. Lapo, great catching up. We'll see you next week here in Winnipeg. And thanks again. Looking forward to having you back and to seeing what you and the squad have for Winnipeg football fans coming up next weekend.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
All right, good stuff with Lapo. Reem, listen, I hope they get a lot of people out there. It is very cool to have access to Lapo as he builds this team that is going to be playing in the Olympic Games in 2 years. And listen, I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot about flag football other than that it is growing at an exponential rate amongst youth and recreationally as well. But when he put that team together and handed the USA their first loss in 8 years, I think it shows the sort of athletes, and I think, to Paul's credit, the coaching that they've got right now. I'm looking forward to following this team, and I cannot wait to see them hopefully in LA in 2028.
Yeah, 2028 seems like far away, but it is around the corner where we'll have flag football, and pretty cool to think Coach Lapo will be leading them in the opening ceremonies. And what kind of players you're going to see on Team USA. A lot of hype for that, but also Team Canada. So practicing right here. Could just spend an afternoon at Princess Auto Stadium outside watching the best do it. I would certainly be interested in taking that in. And flag football definitely going on. And the Blue Bombers have had a huge part of growing football in Manitoba. And we'll see what kind of crew comes over. Hopefully they have a good crowd for that one, as we can, again, see the top players practice and get ready for their selection camp.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, with a couple of Manitobans, I'm particularly intrigued with Jackson Tuchinski. Tuchinski had just an amazing run as the U of M Bison's quarterback. And as we mentioned, the guy is an amazing athlete overall. And that was really interesting to hear Lapo talk about having 2 quarterbacks on the field. And certainly a guy that could be able to catch. I mean, as I mentioned, he's a basketball player as well. So it should be fun. So mark that down, gang. May 2nd, get on down to Princess Auto Stadium. All right, we're going to head to Boston in just a minute. Want to remind you, though, folks, the tickets are on sale now. Get them up at the Tri Hospital Dream Lottery. Go to tryhospitaldream.com and count yourself in for the biggest grand prize ever. Choices of 5 dream home packages worth $1.7 million or $1.35 million cash, tax-free. It is all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital, the Health Sciences Center Foundation, and of course the HSC Children's Hospital. And if you get your tickets now, you'll not only be in for the biggest grand prize ever, but 43 early bird prizes worth over $400,000, including $40,000 cash, some incredible vehicles, shopping sprees, and more. One ticket is all you need, but get a few more, increase your chances, and help support our 3 main hospitals here in Manitoba. Again, tryhospitaldream.com is where you're going to want to get your tickets. You can also get them in person at your local London Drugs location or Red River Co-ops as well. And hey, just before we bring in Joe, great doubleheader tonight to kick things off. You got the Sens trying to avoid going down 0-3, and game 3 between Boston and Buffalo. No better place to get together with your gang to watch it than your local Boston Pizza. Both games will be on, and you can dive into some ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more on their playoff menu. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, off to Boston we go before tonight's big game 3. And our pal Joe Yerdon has made the trek to enemy territory, to Beantown, for this big one tonight. Joe, thanks for jumping on. How are you?
Doing great, Huss. It's nice to be back in Boston. It's been a few years, so this is a heck of a time to do it. Playoffs here is always a good time.
What if I told you about 4 months ago that at the end of April you'd be making a 7-hour drive out to Boston to see the Sabres and Bruins play in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs?
If you had told me that, I'd wonder, wait, the Sabres are in the game? I thought it'd be somebody else I'd be covering playoffs for Bleacher Report, but no, this is I would not have believed you 4 months ago. I would have been like, boy, that'd be one heck of a bender. These guys went on to be able to do that, but I guess that'd be true, right? It's a heck of a run they've been on since the middle of December.
It really has been. Hey, just before we get into tonight's game, I do want to remind everyone the Truck Month is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever is thrown at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell, and it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months. With a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8. This is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Actually, before we get to tonight's big Game 3, you've covered this team for a long time. You've been in that area. What was it like being in the building and, frankly, just in around the building in the city for the last few days as the Sabres finally returned after 14 years of tea times around this time of year?
Man, it's been something else to witness here, because I don't think you can. Well, I mean, I've tried to describe it year after year about how down the fans were, every year, where it was just, you got so much talent, and they just couldn't get it together, couldn't get over the hump, couldn't, do whatever to get into the postseason. And fans were just like, come on, man, like just one of these years, just get back to the playoffs. It'll be good. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. We'll figure it out from there. And instead, this year we get not only a playoff run, but, winning the Atlantic Division, being one of the, 5-6 best teams in the NHL, and having a record where it's just, it's unbelievable. And the way folks, and fans here love hockey. They love hockey in Buffalo more than anything. And I said, you put a winner on the ice, everybody's going to be back. And you get to the playoffs, everybody's going to be back. The weight and the drought and all that stuff, it just kind of builds it up so that each year, like, longer it went, the bigger the explosion was going to be when they finally got there. And boy, oh boy, was it ever. Game 1 was a scene and a half, my friend. It went way beyond my own expectations.
Well, I mean, you had those crazy dudes on the rollerblades beating the hell out of the Cam Neely dummy outside and skating to the game. And listen, it did feel like maybe it was same old Sabres once you got to the playoffs. I mean, the fans were getting on them. The power play stunk. And then it was Tage Thompson who really just simply single-handedly put that team on his back and turned it over. And I'll be honest, going into game 2, Joe, I thought that Buffalo was going to have just so much momentum early that if they could get one past Swayman, I think it would have been like a tidal wave on the Bruins. And to the goaltender's credit and the Bruins' credit, they hung in there through that first period, got one, and then, I mean, I know Buffalo fans, like Minnesota fans, are sort of always waiting for disaster to happen. Mm-hmm. You had it in probably one of the worst goals of the entire season going in on UPL, and it seemed like that was kind of the moment that there was the start of the game really getting away on Buffalo before they could kind of rally, although be it too little too late in the third.
Yeah, giving up a goal like that in the playoffs is usually like, well, time to pack it in. Let's get ready for the next one, because it's such a deflator. And I mean, you could hear the air get sucked out of the building after that one. I mean, that play is every goalie's nightmare. I asked Alex Lyon about it yesterday before the team took off to Boston, and he was just like, listen, that stuff's happened to every goalie at every level. It just doesn't usually happen. Game 2 of the playoffs. I mean, we can all think of other goalies where that's happened in big moments or big situations, and it's so tough, and you have nothing but sympathy for the guy, because it's literally in front of everybody. And you get a goal like that for Boston, and it's, oh boy, okay, 2-0 hole. You got out of it last time, but it's a little different when it's 2-0 and a goal like that. And power play goal a few minutes later, and then they score within the first 20 seconds of the third period. It's like, all right, good night, Irene. We'll see you later. But it got to 4-2. Although I was like, there's no way this happens. But you couldn't help but think, like, boy, if they get one early in the third, you're like. Right, if you're Boston, it's like, all right, this is not ideal, because now the crowd's fully back in it. And after what happened in game 1, you're thinking, oh boy, they're right back. And fans brought it, man. Like Boston calling a timeout at 4-2. It's just like, oh no, they know it. They realize how crazy this could get.
Well, I mean, Josh Allen led it off with the siren and banging the drum and then crushing the beer. I mean, the atmosphere was unmatched. I do dream of what a second round series between Buffalo and Montreal would look like, and the decibel levels in both of those, but both teams have a lot of work to do. How did the Sabres, I know you were there with the availabilities before making the trip to Boston. What was the vibe around the team after losing home ice, knowing that they're still in a best of 5? They've got one win, they've lost one game, still very much in this series, but as they head ahead to Boston.
Their approach to this hasn't really... It's kind of weird, because you think the approach would change in the postseason, because the games are bigger. Every loss is a like a potential cataclysm moment for any team in the playoffs. But they approach everything the same way, and they've done this almost all season. This was something I kind of wrote about on notedhockey.com recently, about how they win a game and then they put it away. They say, okay, we won that. All right, what's next day? New day. Let's figure out how we tackle game day, practice day, whatever. They're able to compartmentalize that stuff and just put it aside and say, like, okay, that's one game, on to the next one. Granted, playoffs provide a different sort of emotional situation, especially with how game 1 played out. It was like, okay, this is a different kind of test. They've never had that moment before. Like, that's not a normal, Wednesday game in the middle of January. That's the playoffs. That's game 1. And, a lot of those guys were still, understandably, really, kind of feeling it after that kind of game, and just feeling really good, and just like, wow, I can't believe that game. And, Boston, you knew they were going to come back even harder. They were going to do things a little bit different. To their credit, they did, and they handled it a lot better than they did in game 1. But losing is kind of a way to get a check. And you're just kind of like, all right, 1-1, let's get back to what we're doing, and try to get back and win game 3 and take this thing right back.
A lot of people interested in the Sabres, because, of course, there's a few ex-Winnipeg Jets on the club. How's our guy Big Stan been holding up in your eyes so much? I know it was a rough start, especially when he was paired with Luke Schenn. Mm-hmm. That was the same thing that happened here in Winnipeg, to be honest. But now playing with Timmins or whoever he's been paired with, it seems to be pretty effective. The results been okay for the big guy.
Yeah, what he needed most was, and it's so tough to be a defenseman to get traded at the deadline because you're coming into a new team, new system, all the new, everything, new partners, the whole deal. It's so hard. And he was going through the full gamut of guys. It was like a late season audition of because I think Lindy decided, okay, Logan's my guy on the third pair. Who's going to play with him? And they had, the choices between Connor Timmins, Zach Metza, Luke Shen, Michael Kesselring. That's 4 really capable guys that can play on the right side and play strong hockey. And Zach Metza was great all season. He's the fans' cult hero, and a lot of people liked him. I think the size factor is definitely a problem there for him. Although he's played well, but playoff hockey is big boy hockey, and Zach Metza, as good as he is, not a big boy. Connor Timmins isn't a huge guy, but plays physical, does a lot of the dirty work, does a lot of the stuff on the PK. And he's got history with Logan Stanley. Those guys kind of grew up together, right here in Southern Ontario. So those guys knew each other growing up. So there's kind of some camaraderie there. And obviously, it was Luke Shen pretty well. That pair played really well in the second Tampa game, not the 8-7 crazy game because they didn't play in that one. But when they played again a couple of weeks later, they played awesome. They were bouncers. They were outstanding. And you could see Shen if the matchups break a certain way in the playoffs. I thought maybe Boston might be able to do it. I think Boston might be a little too fast for that, but I think Stan's really hung in well, and he's the bouncer, man. He's taking care of business. There's a scrum, and he's on the ice. He's handling everybody's business. He's not the guy you want to be crossing.
Well, I know I said just imagine a Montreal series, but I just want Buffalo to win because whether it's Montreal or whether it's Tampa, it would set up to be a very, very juicy series. Tanner Pearson, is he sort of a black ace right now? I mean, he got into 3 or 4 games, I guess, after the trade just to get him into the lineup. But he's sort of in case of emergency break glass, much like Shen is.
Yeah, kind of in that role, and a veteran leader, guy who's been there before, a guy who's he's won cups, so he's been there. Almost scored their winning goal in the last game of the season against Dallas, but I think Ottinger came up. Ottinger made a great save, or he put it off the post really late in that game, so could have ended the season with a big highlight there. But yeah, really good veteran to have in the room, and a guy, a break glass in case of emergency guy. Can't go wrong having a vet like that coming off the bench. I mean, crazy the depth the Sabres have right now, because I think there were some questions as to how deep they'd be if they get an injury and suddenly you're digging deep into Rochester. You don't have to do that now with having guys like Pearson and Josh Dunn, who we saw in the first couple of games. Tyson Kozak's got to get in tonight, so there's some more local fun for you guys right there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look forward to, this game. I think there's a lot of Jet fans. I think there's just a lot of hockey fans that if you don't have any skin in the game, you're sort of tuned in and watching the Buffalo Sabres and just hoping that the fans can, get a few more weeks of this and we see a little bit more. Joe, thanks so much for doing this. Great stuff. We will look forward to Game 3 tonight and hopefully have a nice run for the Sabres and get to catch up more during the playoffs. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it'd be great to catch up again with a second round. That'd be fun.
Good stuff. Appreciate it. There's Joe Yerdon, notedhockey.com, at Joe Yerdon. Not a noted jerk, despite what many may say. We are going to get to the Winnipeg Jets off season. Mike McIntyre, as well as an interesting event that Mike was a part of. We will get to that coming up next as WST continues. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon, and you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's Powersports Superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong with a power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, it is time to catch up with Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Want to remind you that Red Tag Days are on at your local Prairie Toyota dealer right now, featuring the Toyota Tacoma. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Mike McIntyre joins us now. Mike, before we dive into the Jets offseason and where you're going tonight, how was your comedy debut last night?
Well, put it this way, Huss. I'm not quitting my day job. Nor have any offers rolled in today for a new career, a Vegas residency. I kind of thought maybe I could open for Carrot Top. I mean, I love Vegas. I'll take whatever. Even one of the off-strip hotels, I'm happy to set up. I mean, heck, I'll busk if maybe I got to start at the Forks, right, with a hat and and start off small that way. But no, in all seriousness, it was a blast. There I am on stage. Yeah. So people are like, what? Why were you doing stand-up comedy? Well, every year, the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, which, by the way, 25 years, congrats to them. It's funny. I actually walked into a joke last night as I was walking into the gas station Performing Arts Center. The slogan was up, 25 years of nonsense. And it dawned on me that my wife and we just celebrated our 25-year anniversary. So I actually started off my routine, Huss. I had a whole script that I'd written out, but I improvised. I think that's good in comedy, right?
You're a natural.
I said I had no idea that my wife wrote the slogan for the comedy festival, because 25 years of nonsense is how she describes being married to me. And so that was a pretty good opener, I thought. I had a good opener and a good closer, because my closer was, people will find this funny, it relates to my sports and Jets travels. So a running gag, I have a daughter, she's 21. She is the spitting image of me, sarcastic and funny. And so she always jokes. Yes. When I go on the road for a Jets trip, she always jokes how excited she is because it means other dad gets to enter the picture. She has this fictional character she's created. He's known just as Other Dad, and Other Dad does all the things that apparently I don't do. Like, he fixes stuff around the house. He cooks, he cleans. He's a good husband. He's a good father. So I ended my routine last night by shouting out Other Dad and my daughter, and then asking how many times Other Dad has performed stand-up comedy. It was a bit of a mic drop ending, I thought. So I one-upped Other Dad, which I thought was fun.
DT, Derek Taylor, voice of the Bombers, was also out there.
Yep.
Maybe I got a lot of material just waiting to explode on people. I'm not sure whether some of those jokes would go over well at that, but congratulations on doing that. That was fun to see, and I'm sorry we missed it. We were, of course, watching the Moose last night.
Yes.
Who are up against it just one game into the playoffs, playing for their lives tomorrow night against a Milwaukee team that had, a lot of really good young players come back from Nashville, and that is always something that happens, at this time of year for teams that don't make the playoffs. But by the same token, Braden Yeager back with the Manitoba Moose, Brad Lambert, who had a couple nice chances last night. Funny thing is, I was talking with Connor about this right off the bat. The guy that really caught my eye watching the game last night was the guy that has only been here for 2 weeks and somehow found his way into the lineup over a number of guys that had been here all year long in Lucas Wallin. He really stood out last night. We talked to Mark Morrison yesterday on the program about just the fight that he has in his game, and it was evident last night. I mean, we'll see what happens down the road, but it's found money if you can get one of those UFAs coming out of the NCAA, like the Jets did with Brandon Tanev all those years back, to turn into an impact player. And tell you what, I certainly was left wanting more of number 33 last night.
Yeah, I saw you mix it up a little bit. There's some offense there, and I think the report on him when he signed was he's got an engine that never quits, and the Jets could use some more players like that
big time
in the organization for sure. Like, I almost think of guys like Tanev, like Mikey Asamont. There's another guy, right, who and he's gone on to actually have kind of a nice NHL career, just sort of tip of the iceberg with what he did here in Winnipeg. But yeah, I mean, Wallin is an interesting guy, and he's a guy that is signed. Like, it's not just an AHL deal. He will be at Jets camp in the fall. And, he's a guy that could work his way into certainly the mix at some point. And, high character. He was the captain of his college team. We know the Jets have a type. I think they have about 6 former captains, maybe more. They like to target those high character guys. And yeah, he can play. And as you said, Hassa, I was a little surprised too when I saw the lineup, like, oh, he's in. For example, he's in over some Jets draft picks who, like Fabian Wagner, didn't play. Jacob Julian didn't play. So that tells you that they're impressed by what they saw. I'll say this about the Moose last night, and by all accounts, they had a lot of great chances, couldn't finish. And, maybe we're a little leaky on their own end of things. They really could use Elias Salamonson. And I saw Dave Minuk tweeted from Moose practice say that he was in a regular contact jersey. I got to think with their season on the line now, Huss, that Elias will be in the lineup tomorrow night. And, we saw what he did with the Jets, where, my goodness, there were nights where arguably he was Winnipeg's, second or third best defenseman. To get a player like him back now for the Moose tomorrow, if that's in the cards, that's going to be a massive addition to that blue line. And I'm sure Elias, he doesn't want it to be one and done. Like, he'll want the team to win so that they can hopefully go on and play some more hockey.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that was one thing that was pretty evident last night, that the lack of Ville Heinola, the lack of Elias Salomonsson was somewhat impactful. I mean, they generated 43 shots, but they did not have a lot of, controlled exits, boom, in.
Yeah.
I mean, once they got into the zone, they were really tenacious, and a lot of it was in and around the perimeter, and they were just trying to put pucks on net. I thought Milwaukee did a great job of sort of letting Murray see the puck. But overall, this is kind of what the Moose have been all year long, a hardworking team that has been offensively challenged. And needless to say, Elias will be a big boost to them on the back end. And, we'll see if they can get a couple early and actually maybe play with the lead as opposed to the catch-up game that they were in pretty much all last night.
I found it interesting, Huss. I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit of what Kevin Cheveldayoff and Scott Arniel had to say and Connor Hellebuck. But Kevin Cheveldayoff talked the other day about kind of a full, I don't think he used the word audit, but, basically evaluating the organization top to bottom. And I have to think what's going on with the Moose, what's gone on with the Moose this year, where, I think when you look at the lineup they have and the players they have and, just their pedigree and what they did in junior or college, what some of them have done already at the AHL level, I don't know how you could conclude anything, but this group has underperformed. To finish fourth, I think they were a stronger team on paper than they ultimately were on the ice. Now, why is that? Is it did it leak from the top down, like some of the underperforming? Is it structural? Is it systemic? Is it coaching? And I have to think there's going to be there has to be a thorough evaluation of the development side of things, because that is so important for a team like the Jets. And, that's why this would be very disappointing if the Moose were like 2 and out. These players, this organization could use a bit of a runway here to evaluate where some of these guys are at. And it's hard to do that in 2 playoff games if that's all this ends up being. And I just think this team on paper is too good to be knocked out in 2 games, but they don't play the game on paper, right?
No, and as we said, this is a Milwaukee team that's got a lot of help. We saw Brady Martin get his first pro goal last night. He spent a little bit of time after being the 5th overall pick last year with the Nashville Predators at the start of the year, was actually picked the pick in front of Porter Martone, who's had just this incredible start to his career, being a point-a-game guy in the regular season and now doing damage in the playoffs. But it's a point. And, as we kind of transition over to, the Jets, just to get your thoughts on kind of the wrap-up of the season, both from the players and the coach and GM on Monday. This has been something that we've been talking about this program for a long time. And when you have a season where you step back as far as the Winnipeg Jets did from the level that they established the year before, especially when some of your players have career years, you realize that, there's a lot that went wrong this year. And to me, if I'd heard anything other than we are doing a full audit, autopsy, whatever the word you want to call it, top to bottom of the organization, would have been disappointing, because I think it really is necessary. And, obviously the pro scouting and what they're able to do free agency is somewhat mysterious, because, I've maintained Gustav Nyquist is probably their 40th choice of players, but that was who they were able to get at the end. But when it comes to the draft, when it comes to the players that are in the system, and when it comes to what has happened at the American League level when they're in the organization playing in the same city, it's impossible to argue that everything is just fine when you look at what's happened the last 3 years, as well as some of the sort of stagnating offensive numbers for this team. So it will be quite interesting to see what comes out of that, both from amateur scouting, but then as well, what is this team doing to put these young men in the best position to be players when they get to the NHL? And Mike, there's a number of angles that you could look at for this, but it is the lifeblood of the organization. And if that doesn't get right, it is really hard. Like, you can make all the trades you want. You can, we can fantasy GM this to the hills. If this team can't draft good players and develop them into NHLers, it is going to be a very, very steep uphill climb.
Bang on, 100%, Huss, and certainly the track record in recent years. Yes, there's a few success stories, but it hasn't been great for various reasons. We don't need to belabor them today, but looking ahead to 10 days from now, we're going to find out exactly where the Jets will be picking when the draft lottery is held on May the 5th. and whether they stay at 7, move to 1 or 2, also possibly 3, those are all on the table, as is falling to 8 or 9. So we know the Jets are picking in one of 6 spots: 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Regardless of where they're picking, there should be a very good prospect. Arguably, the player they get should instantly become their best prospect. But they have to get this right, Huss. They cannot afford to swing and miss on this one. That being said, to sort of go back to the exit interviews from the Jets and what things like Connor Hellebuck said, where he, my interpretation was that he kind of issued an ultimatum. He put the organization on notice. Fix this, and fast. Time's running out for me. Connor Hellebuck doesn't care about guys that could be players in 3, 4, 5 years. He wants to win right now. And Huss, let me just sort of throw a rhetorical to you. I don't have an answer to this, but the thought has entered my mind. Are we for sure certain the Jets are going to use this draft pick? Or is this organization in a place with the core that they have where they would potentially try and leverage that pick for like immediate substantial help? And I don't have the answer other than to say the thought at the very least has crossed my mind based on the tone and the tenure of some of those exit interviews.
I mean, I would say that, listen, that would be, I wouldn't suggest to do that. And I think it would be, listen, if there is an offer of a player that's coming in that is, under team control for a long time, that you can slide in and is an NHLer that you feel is much better than the prospects that are there, then I guess you have to consider it. But I have a hard time imagining a deal that would make sense moving forward. I mean, to me, this pick, to your point, Mike, is the most important one that they've made in a long, long time. And, these guys aren't going to be around forever. And regardless of how their tenures end, whether they're Jets for life or whether there's deals over the course of the next few years that has them finish, and I'm speaking of the core, of course, finish their careers in other spots, to me, this pick has to be a cornerstone. I mean, if you're a good team, you don't get top 10 picks very often. The Jets have not had one in a long time. So to me, this needs to be a cornerstone looking ahead to the sort of the leader of the next era of Jets hockey. And like, hopefully this player can contribute in the next couple of years. That would be great. But I mean, going all in on right now after what we saw last year, I think would be a very dangerous thing to do. And, look at what happened to the Rangers. They won the President's Trophy. They missed the playoffs. Then they slid all the way down to the bottom 5. If that trajectory happens with the Winnipeg Jets, all bets are off as far as, what's happening with the Hellebucks to start, Josh Morrissey's future, who will be eligible for an extension next year. To me, those are the sort of the two linchpins. I've often thought that they'd give it this year, and the Morrissey decision would be the one that could potentially send things one way or the other. But as I said, after listening to Hellebuck on Friday, all bets are off if all of a sudden Hellebuck is not all in on moving forward as a Winnipeg Jet. And I'm not saying that he is. Some people took it that way. I didn't. But I'm sort of with you. This is that season had to be a wake-up call for everyone. I know it was for the people in the organization, but for the players as well. And listen, while we talk about Hellebuck, all this, he did touch on it as well, but that was not a Vezina caliber season that was sunk by everybody else. I mean, he was part of it as well. He'll need to come back and be part of the solution and be a heck of a lot better. And he said as much, but it's very clear that this roster was, and I mean, man, we're looking at these playoff games right now. I mean, this Dallas-Minnesota series, I mean, this team is so far off, both from a skill offense side of things, but also, I mean, that bottom 6, not comparable right now to what we're seeing those teams throw out. And then the ability to play a playoff style hockey that they did survive against St. Louis. It's hard to look at this roster right now and see many pieces that would be able to even hang in there with these teams and compete as currently constructed.
Well, not to add some additional rain on the parade here, Huss, but it's also tough to look at the roster and the contract status of what they have and see the immediate path forward to overhauling the roster unless they utilize buyouts or trades or are willing to do things they weren't willing to do this past season, like put guys on waivers if they feel that they're not contributing, and making those tough calls with underperforming veterans. Like, look, I love Cole Koepke, and I was all for signing Cole Koepke. I think that was a great signing. But the fact is they re-signed Cole Koepke. There's now like 12 forwards under contract. And I think Connor Rabchuk had the list on social media the other day. There's not a lot of room here unless they move some guys out one way or another. And that's where I do wonder. And, it's a shame, Huss. Like, I wish we got more time and more questions with Kevin Cheveldayoff the other day. I don't know that we would have got answers. But would he consider buyouts of guys like Niederreiter and Nemestikov? I think he has to, because again, they can't just run it back. And yet you look at the contract status of so many of these guys, and it's hard to see, well, how is this roster going to look radically different in the fall if they don't find a way to move some bodies out of here and create some opportunities and some openings and bring in some better talent, most importantly, because clearly they need it. So, I mean, we're only in April. We're a long ways out. But the stage is set, Huss, for what, I feel like we almost say this every year, but this time we really mean it. This has to be the most interesting and important offseason in quite some time for the Jets.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it is different. I mean, like last year, I can tell you, I mean, you had this great season. You end up falling short in the playoffs. Everything that happened with Scheifele and all that, disappointing. It ended in the second round. But I mean, the offseason was, okay, can they keep Ehlers? No, that's probably not happening. What are you going to do on that? And let's face it, the two guys that they brought in, key guys, Gustav Nyquist, I'm not expecting an extension for Gus at any time soon. And then the other one was Jonathan Toews. And I know many people had said, well, he's going to be back for more than just 1 year. I got to admit, from listening to what Toews had to say, being sort of honest with the disappointment of his season, I will go on the record right now as if I was betting one way or the other, I expect that we'll hear that this was a one final season for Jonathan Toews, and watching him as the last man off the ice in that final game of the season might be the last time we've seen him. So there's two guys. And then you're right. The Nino question, the Vlad Nemestikov question. Is there room for them on the roster? Can you move them for something? Is there a taker for those guys elsewhere in the league as a depth piece? Because if you move one of those guys and Toews isn't back and Gus Nyquist isn't back, then maybe you've got a little bit more room for Brad Lambert, Chibrikov, Parker Ford. I mean, a number of guys that are really challenging from the Moose to come in, bring some of that youthful energy, excitement, and a little bit more wheels, which is something that this team really lacked, specifically on those four players that I mentioned.
Yeah, and it was interesting how these year-end interviews, how many players, Gabe Vilardi, Connor Hellebuck, Kyle Connor, a lot of guys mentioned speed and youth and energy. And, in talking about like what changed with this team after the Olympic break, these were not so subtle messages to me, in my view, from core players to management about the way the roster needs to be constructed. And I know, we can debate till we're blue in the face about Kevin Cheveldayoff's answers, or in some cases lack thereof the other day. I have to think deep down, Kevin Cheveldayoff has learned some valuable lessons from this past season, which are going to impact how he approaches things moving forward. Now, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see what he does. If any trades happen, certainly July 1st, could be an important date. But he's got to find a way to retool this roster and, to sort of bring it all back to the Manitoba Moose. Ideally, you'd love to see a long playoff run from this group to sort of get a better idea of where some of these guys are at. So hopefully the Moose can extend their season tomorrow night, keep that going for at least a bit longer. But yeah, you watch these playoffs and, I'm a sucker I love playoff hockey. It's just the best. But you see the pace and the intensity. And I imagine Huss, not just for the Jets, for all the teams that are out of the playoffs, or most of them, they're watching this hockey and it's almost foreign, right? They're going like, man, how do we compete with that? That's so far ahead of where we are right now. I guess the thing to remember is the Jets were there a year ago. How do they get back? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about that for the next couple of months heading into the draft and, of course, in early July and, throughout the summer, really, as this team looks to make up for the ground lost this year. Mike, safe travels out to the MJ final tonight. We'll look forward to your report in the Winnipeg Free Press, see if Neepawa can complete the sweep or whether it's going to come back for a Game 5. Thanks for doing this, and congrats again on getting all those yucks last night at the Comedy Festival.
Thanks, Huss. Enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy this great weather, and we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. All right, there's Mike McIntyre. Now, speaking of the Manitoba Moose, in just a moment, we're going to welcome in Parker Ford from the Moose to talk about the big Game 2 tomorrow between Manitoba and the Milwaukee Admirals in the Calder Cup playoffs. That is next as WST continues. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, in a lot of ways synonymous with Winnipeg. Headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, WST would like to thank our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Clean Line, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry has the back of his teammates, Clean Line has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Clean Line has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Spring is here, and it's time to get down to Winnipeg Sports Superstore Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway to get ready for it. The bike shop is open with incredible selection of bikes, including e-bikes that you'll want to check out. Of course, baseball season is here, all the equipment ready to go for the season, and tons of Toronto Blue Jays merchandise. All the soccer players are getting loaded up with the best selection of boots and unis around, not to mention tons of World Cup merch of Canada and the rest of the world just in time for kickoff. And for all you NFL fans, the draft is coming up on the wall, and for the first time in a while, they're actually really nice. So you can pop down there. Get ready for spring, the World Cup, the NFL Draft, Blue Jays season, and more at Royal Sports. 50 years plus, family owned and operated at 750 Pembina Highway. Much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, big one tomorrow night. Canada Life Center for the Manitoba Moose. Down 1-0 in their best of 3 series after the 4-1 loss in the opener last night. Let's bring in the Moose goal scorer from last night, Parker Ford, back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Parker, great to talk to you again. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Thanks for having me on. But yeah, tough one last night, but looking for a bounce back tomorrow for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a frustrating game being there, and I'm sure being on the bench and there as well, because, I mean, this was not a game where the team was out of it. Maybe not the best start. And obviously, when you spot a team a couple goals, you got some work to do. But, I mean, pretty hard to complain with the work ethic of the team. I mean, the chances that were created, the amount of rubber you got on the opposition goaltender. Sounds a little familiar, though. Just had a little bit of trouble finishing.
Yeah, for sure. I think overall we felt good about our game. There's a couple things that we could have done better, could have executed early on a little bit better, and we'll look to have a better start tomorrow. But overall, looking at our game, I think a lot of us, even though it's a loss, going into tomorrow, we have a good feeling that we can start the way we kind of finished.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there was absolutely no quit in the team. I mean, right up until the final buzzer, and the one that went in that sort of made it 4-1. But moving forward into a game where you're playing the exact same team again, how do you pull the positives out of what you were able to do, and try and be better in areas that maybe you think you can improve, knowing that there's no tomorrow if you can't get the dub on Friday night?
Yeah, for sure. That feeling of your back up against the wall, I think, to a man, everyone knows that everything matters, and one little mistake could kind of call it. So, it's not the best feeling, but also, like I said, we're confident, and we've played these guys enough time throughout the year. It seems like, if we ever lose one, we end up winning the next one. So, it's going to be a grind, but for sure, I think our mentality is just everything matters, every little detail matters, and we're confident we're going to come up on top on Friday.
You were able to beat the Milwaukee netminder yesterday, and tell us about the line. Di Giuseppe, a former Calder Cup winner, and Colby Barlow, who, obviously, like many players, had struggles early on in his first pro year, but really came on hot at the end with, I think, 4 goals in his last 4 games, and a pretty nice setup to you on the goal last night.
Yeah, it's been good playing with those two. I've played with Deej most of the year, and he brings a good veteran presence to our team, especially with him winning last year. He's a great voice in the locker room. I love playing with him, and I think we play similar styles, and he likes to shoot the puck, so try to get it to him. And then Barlow, just kind of been playing with him towards the end of the season here, and like you said, he went through a little adversity early on in the season, but seems like he's really finding his game now, and you can tell he's more confident with the puck, and he knows his game, and he's getting more pucks to the net, and a couple more are just going in for him. So it's been good to kind of play with those guys and find some chemistry here when the games matter most.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's all about getting to Sunday and a third and deciding game to see who moves on to play Grand Rapids, and the team will need to have their best. It sounds like, and we'll know for sure tomorrow, that you might get Elias Salmonson back on the back end. I mean, how big is that? And just tell us about the difference that he makes in your lineup and would for a big backs against the wall game tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. He adds a lot for us. Seeing him go up with the Jets and see the way he was playing, it was awesome to see. And, we were all pumped for him. And, it's too bad he got a little banged up there at the end. But, if he's going to step in, that's huge for us. And, he moves pucks really well. He gets pucks through on net, which that's something we need to do more of. And, we'll be excited if he's back in for sure.
Parker Ford of the Manitoba Moose is with us. Folks, we do have a special WST offer for tickets for the game tomorrow night. Check the link in the description of the YouTube or the podcast today. Remo, you can throw it up in the chat as well if you want, just to make sure people know to get them. Imagine we'll have a good crowd tomorrow night, Friday, heading into the weekend, knowing that this is it for the Manitoba Moose. Parker, you also got a chance to play some games early in the season, at the end of the season with the Winnipeg Jets. How do you look back at your time in the NHL this season?
Yeah, I think that was really big for me to kind of make the team out of camp and play games right away. I wasn't sure that it was going to line up like that. And, it gave me some confidence and, getting that call up towards the end of the season too, that was huge for me. But yeah, I would have liked to maybe chip in offensively a little bit more. But yeah, it's just, the more games I can play up there, the better for me. And, in the long run, it's going to be good for me. So, but yeah, it was a great experience. And, in the time I was up there, I learned a lot from all those guys. And, it's not the season you want to see from the Jets. And personally, there's always things to get better and work on. But yeah, I'm happy with the experience. But now I'm just focused on this playoff push with the Moose.
Yeah, of course, Friday night, 7 p.m., Canada Life Center, Moose and the Milwaukee Admirals. I've got to ask you this. We had your teammate Tyrell Bauer on about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks. And I mean, he is such a fun dude to talk to. And then you see what he's capable of doing when the gloves hit the ice. I got to ask you, as a player and a teammate, I mean, what is it like being on the bench or being on the ice, being a spectator when he's had one of his legendary bouts this year? I mean, it really is something to see.
It is crazy. He's one of my best friends, and seeing what he brings every night that he's in the lineup, I really don't have words for it. It seems like every time he drops the gloves, it's an absolute war. And yeah, I mean, just from a perspective on the bench, like it gives an energy to the group that I don't think much else can do. So he's one of the best guys I know and one of the best teammates I know. So he's willing to do whatever it takes for the team and whatever it takes to win. So you just instantly love guys like that. And he brings that factor for us that not many people bring. So yeah.
I imagine after a couple of those tilts, though, I mean, as much as everyone's all fired up, like there is a little bit of getting your jaw up off the floor, saying to the guy, like, "Oh my God, did that just happen? And did it really go like 2 minutes?"
Exactly. There's been a handful of times where a lot of us are like, "How is this still going?" Like, they have to break this up, but. Yeah, it's like I said, sometimes you have no words for it.
Well, and I mean, listen, this is the thing. I mean, fairly or unfairly, I mean, you can't turn away. I mean, it is when one of those scraps has it, that's what people are talking about, and that's what's getting all the video. But he's a very important player on the team. And, obviously was hurt towards the end of the year, came back for the finale, back in, especially in the playoffs, I'd imagine, where there's so much action in front of the net. They're trying to get your goalie, looking at any advantage. Having a big body that can clear things out for Milic and Dom in front of the net, incredibly important at this time of year, and important that he was able to play and be back in for tomorrow's game as well.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Especially the penalty kill too. He's one of our top penalty kill guys, and he blocks everything that's near him. And but yeah, I've had multiple guys that I train with in the summer come up to me and just say how much they hate playing against Ty. And I think that's one of the biggest compliments you can get as as a defenseman that people are kind of scared to go on the net front whenever he's on the ice.
All right, and of course, our guy T. Konopoli, the president of the Tyrell Bauer fan club. Bauer, man, he makes everyone better. Overall, though, and I think this will be, I'm sure, a bit of the focus going into tomorrow. This was not a team that was carried by one player or one line at any point this season. I mean, it is a well-balanced lineup with contributors from top to bottom. I mean, to get back into this series and win it and move on, this really is going to take everyone starting tomorrow night, isn't it?
For sure. Whenever we've had success this year, everyone's been bought in. And like you said, everyone's chipped in. I think we play a style where pretty much we roll 4 lines, roll all D. So, it really just comes down to us executing and, everyone firing on all cylinders. And, but yeah, for sure. I think we have a line that can do something at any given time of the game, which is huge. So we'll be looking to do that tomorrow for sure.
Parker, cannot wait, hopefully for 2 games this weekend at Canada Life Centre, but it'll start off with a great start and hopefully a win tomorrow night for you and your Manitoba Moose. Congrats on a great year personally, both with the time in the National Hockey League and in the American League, and good luck tomorrow giving us a hockey game in downtown Winnipeg on Sunday afternoon. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Huss. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. There's Parker Ford. Moose and Admirals tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Hit the link in the chat, in the description. Grab your tickets tomorrow to see the Manitoba Moose. All right, Jake Boland-Moss is going to join me. We got NFL Draft Round 1 tonight and 3 big games in the National Hockey League, which we're going to get to on the Cool Bet Lines in just a minute. I want to shout out my guys over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, heading out, getting ready for a big fishing season. I cannot wait. I'm going to get out there early this year, which I've never really done before. Can't wait to tell you all about that. If you are thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, it's Aikens Lake. You can find out more at aikenslake.com on availability and options for the 2026 fishing season this summer. And as amazing as the world-class fishing is, trust me, the hospitality from the Turen family and the Aikens team is that much better. Before we bring in Jake, let's do a quick look at the Breezy Bend leaderboard for our friends at Breezy on the PGA Tour this week. It's the Zurich Classic, which is the pairs event. Of course, all our golf reports throughout the year brought to you by our friends at Breezy Bend. If you're thinking about a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, Breezy Bend is the spot. Check it out online today at breezybend.ca. So this is the best ball game to start off, the 4 balls, and some pretty low scores. Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer with a 14 under 58 for the lead. Now, the Canadian team of Pendy and Mac Hughes, Taylor Pendrith and Mackenzie Hughes, they are in 8th place at 10 under par. Looking to see where our guy Sudarshan is. Adam Svensson and Adam Hadwin are 6 under on their 9th hole. And Sudarshan and Ryan Gerard 3 under through 9. So they're going to need to add some birdies on the back 9. Interesting to note, Matt Fitzpatrick just won the RBC Heritage on the weekend. He's in the tournament with his brother, Alex, who's had a couple wins on the DP Tour. So watch out for the Fitzpatrick brothers. There's our Breezy Bend leaderboard from the PGA Tour on a Thursday. Let's get to the Cool Bet Lines and welcome in Jake Boland-Moss from Cool Bet. JBM, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Pretty good, Huss. Pretty good. I've honestly spent most of the day here slinging some merch around to some of our sportsbook team and, getting some stuff ready for, the people who won the Masters pool a few weeks ago. So, it's been a different kind of day for me, but I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on the NFL draft and obviously been watching a ton of hockey the last few nights. So it's a great time of the sports year, Huss. It feels like it never ends. And I feel like every time I'm on here, I say that, but my goodness, it's just like every single night you're flipping between hockey games and there's madness all over and there's overtimes. And yeah, it's been pretty wild, but exciting time of the year, no doubt.
Yeah, if you were staying up for that Dallas-Minnesota game in the Eastern time zone, it was just about 2 a.m. by the time it stopped. Now, we get these stupid 8:52 starts in the Central Division in the first round. And, of course, it went to almost a full double OT in that game. Massive for Dallas. And, we'll finish up with the draft, but we'll get to the hockey right off the bat. One thing that really stood out to me, because this has been such a close series and could easily be 2-1 Wild, is that with Dallas's win last night, they go back to being a huge favorite in this series, minus 263. I mean, the Wild more than 2-1 right now, plus 210, despite only being down 2-1 with Game 4 at home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sold on that number, Huss. That seems a little bit rich for my blood if I'm back in Dallas at this point. I think this series is still destined for 6 or 7 games. I think Wild find a way to get it done in Game 4, and then you're sitting in a great best-of-3 series situation with another chance to win a home game. So, yeah, I'm not quite sold. That minus 263 seems like a whole lot for a team that's only up 2-1 in a series. 3-1 in a series, might be, they might be minus 263. They might be minus 400, minus 350, but I don't know. That seems like a big jump from a series that was tied 1-1 as of the start of last night and a game that went to overtime in Game 3.
Tell you what, the other series price that sort of surprises me that it's not closer is this Edmonton-Anaheim. I mean, Edmonton's minus 192 still after the Ducks went in and stole home ice. Ducks could be up 2-1 in this series if things broke a little different in game number 1 with that Oiler comeback. Anaheim at plus 160. This team is right in the mix. You combine goaltending that is certainly far from solid, consistent, and reliable with arguably 2 of Connor McDavid's worst games, certainly in the playoffs ever. And all of a sudden, I think there's a little bit of worry and maybe a little bit of excitement from the Ducks side of things, especially for Ducks bettors, thinking on whether they can pull off the upset with this exciting young team.
Yeah, I had a good peek at that game last night, Huss. And listen, the Ducks are not afraid of the Edmonton Oilers. That's kind of the vibe it gave to me. Like, they're out there and they've got a plan for Connor McDavid and Leon and, that firepower. And they've kept Connor McDavid off the score sheet here in the first 2 games, which is pretty insane. So they're not backing away. They're not shying away from this Edmonton Oilers team, a team that's been to the Cup final in 2 straight years. And that young talent on the Ducks is really starting to show. Cutter Gauthier, really impressive game last night. He was up and down the ice. He's flying around out there, and he's been in the matchup with McDavid. And so far, I'd say he's winning that matchup right now with the Ducks headed back home in a 1-1 tie in that series.
Now, we've got 3 games tonight. Pick them between the Sabres and the Bruins. Buffalo had that crazy comeback in game number 1. I thought they were great in the first period. Swayman kept them in. And then when you let in a goal like UPL did, I mean, you're probably not winning that game. I mean, unless you had a big lead and it was just sort of a blip. It wasn't. This series is 1-1. Who do you like in game 3? Going back to Boston right now.
Yeah, my initial lean, Huss, for this one, listen, I want Buffalo to win this series more than anything. I don't like the Bruins, and the Bruins are set up in a situation right now where they could win a playoff series, win a couple playoff series, and also have a top 10 pick in this NFL and its NHL draft, depending on how the balls fall. So, listen, I'm rooting sorely against the Bruins, but back in the Garden for Game 3, I do kind of lean Bruins tonight, if I'm being honest with you. I just think, they've been getting great goaltending. And they just find a way, man. Like you sit here and watch this Bruins team and you look at some of the names and you're just like, who are these guys? And they just find a way to get it done. They got it done in game 2 to tie this series up in Buffalo. I could see a lot of energy from the crowd in the Garden tonight. I could see them getting it done and then Buffalo having their bounce back in game 4. That's kind of how I'm scripting it in my mind, but I don't know if I have a full blown the Bruins are winning tonight because I am rooting for the Sabres.
Yeah, listen, I am too. And I mean, I'm sorry. It's actually just gone down a little bit. Boston now minus 111, Buffalo minus 105. That's the best number that we had on the Sabres at any point today. I mean, I think I'm just going to ride with Buffalo on this, maybe a small play individually. I do. And again, this is sort of the same thing because the early games were so tight. It's now or never for the Ottawa Senators. Listen, they came back probably pretty frustrated that they didn't get a game in Carolina considering the way that they played, but none of that matters now. And the Sens go in tonight actually as not a huge favorite, but minus 122 as opposed to Carolina's plus 104.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Sens in that first game, it felt like they were getting smothered by the Carolina Hurricanes. That's what the Carolina Hurricanes can tend to do. They're quite a boring team to watch, if I'm being honest with you, Huss. I think that's a lot of the time why we give them shit, you and I. We know the bookmakers love them. We know the analytics love them. They're the darlings in all those different facets. But, when it comes to the eye test, they are quite boring. Ottawa getting to an overtime in that game too and not being able to get it done, obviously, kind of bit them in the butt a little bit. But you're coming back home. You're going to get a pretty good crowd tonight in Ottawa. And you just got to find a way to right the ship and get this series to 2-1. So, yeah, desperation time for Ottawa. You don't want to end up in a situation like the Pittsburgh Penguins are staring at right now, down 0-3 to the Philadelphia Flyers with another game in Philly that they got to look at here coming up.
Man, we were so close last night with our goal-scoring parlay. We got Malkin, we got Draisaitl, was just short on Kaprizov, who almost won the game on that power play chance in OT. I think I've got one tonight, a big number that we're going to put together in just a minute. But we have to give a hat tip to Mr. Gregoire because Patty came on the program yesterday and we put together our pick, and then he goes, I think I've got a Patty knows puck as well that I'm going to throw out there. And it was a Malkin goal, a Sidney Crosby assist, and Porter Martone to get a point. The Malkin goal hit in the first 6-7 minutes of the game with Sid on the assist. And then I wasn't in my seat for 10 minutes at the Moose game before I got the text from Patty, all caps, Porter Martone. That was more than 10-1 last night. So shout out to Pat for delivering a winner for the people. What do you think about this? This is a big swing for a big win tonight. Goal scorer prop, Jake. Let's see if we can get this one up. Timmy Stutz for the Ottawa Senators. He's 2-1. Alex Tuck for the Buffalo Sabres. He's plus 195. And Marty Nakash for the Avalanche. He's plus 161. When I put those in together, it's more than 22-1. So what do we think about that for an exclusive or a combo card if people want to take a big swing for the fences with me tonight?
Yeah, I think we can combo that one up. We'll call it like Hussey's Lamplighters or, Hustler's Lamplighters.
Hat-trick.
And
Huss's hat trick. We need 3 goals.
Huss's hat trick. That's perfect. 3 goals. Yeah. So, yeah, Huss's hat trick for the night. I'll get that up in the combo cards after I jump off of here. And that'll be boosted up probably close to with the way the boosts go and how high the number is, it could be up to 25-1 or better.
Well, let's see if we can get a big one for tonight. Now, it is a big night for NFL fans. First round of the NFL draft. My Chiefs have 2 picks, a top 10 pick, and again at 29. But give people a little bit of an idea about what awaits them at Coolbet if they want to put a few sprinkles down on the first round of the draft. I always love tonight, and it's always fun, even if you haven't been paying too much attention to hit. And I can't believe the amount of options that are awaiting people if they want to get in on the draft tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty insane right now. We have the overall picks. You look at first, second overall. Fernando Mendoza is going to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that's all done. But finished at this point. So we're waiting just to hear his name get called. Second overall gets a little interesting. I know I've seen both Arvell Reese and David Bailey thrown back and forth by all the draft analysts and the pros at this. And then I think from the second overall pick, after they decide if it's going to be Reese or Bailey, this thing could get pretty crazy. Jordan Love is the favorite right now to go third. to the New Orleans Saints, or sorry, Jeremiah Love, I should say, is the favorite to go third to the New Orleans Saints right now. I'm looking at Daniel Jeremiah's draft breakdown. He has Arvell Reese going there to the Saints after David Bailey goes second. Like, this is going to get very interesting. So a lot of options, you get your overall picks. You got what pick someone's going to be in the draft. So, you like Jeremiah Love to go in the top 5. Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of juice there at minus 400. But then you look at our super boost in the combo cards. Jeremiah Love, top 5 pick, and Nathan McKinnon assist is boosted over even money right now. So, you want to get a piece of Jeremiah Love in the top 5. That's the way to go. I just got a text from a buddy. I don't know if I might regret saying this on here, but a couple of my buddies said they like Spencer Fenneau to go in the top 10, and minus 132 right now to be drafted in the top 10. They have him mocked here at 6 to the Cleveland Browns. Someone's always hunting for a tackle early on, so he could be going. You have the draft position of a lot of players. It looks like there's probably almost 30 guys on the list. The second quarterback that people are eyeing, Ty Simpson, his under 24.5 is plus 200. So, he could go late first round. That's kind of what that's showing. The over there of 24.5, be 25th pick or onward, minus 286. It sounds like it's Fernando Mendoza and then a big jump to the next quarterback. But we're going to see a lot of position players go, in terms of the wide receivers, in terms of, edge rushers, this safety that everyone keeps talking about. I'm just hunting for his name right now. Caleb Downs is a big name on the board. This mock has him going 12 to the Cowboys. That would be real interesting. Arguably one of the best players in the draft, one of the best skilled players in the draft, one of the best players at his position in the draft, but safety isn't a premier draft position. So that'll be an interesting one. Could he squeeze into the top 10 depending on how things fall? I think it's going to be very interesting after the second pick, Huss. I would tune in. At 8 o'clock or whenever the draft gets going. The distance between picks, Huss, is a little shorter than it's been in the past. I think they went from 10 to 8 minutes. So it might move a little quicker than we've seen in the past. And, you're going to imagine if there's going to be trades, they're going to be happening, before the draft, or they'll be happening, pretty quick in real time to try to get picks as they come. So I think it's going to be an interesting night draft-wise, especially for you, Huss. I mean, you guys aren't used to being in the situation you're in as a Chiefs fan.
For sure. And here's one of the fun things. I mean, if you've just sort of been focusing in on your own team, one of the other options that they've got for all of the teams is the position of the first drafted player by your team. So we'll just look at Kansas City. I've seen some mocks that have them taking a corner. Corner is plus 300. Defensive line or edge rusher, Reuben Bain potentially if he's there at 9. That's plus 275. Offensive lineman plus 250, which is actually the favorite, despite I have not seen a lot of mocks with the Chiefs going to the O-line with that first pick. So you can do that with every one of the teams if you want to focus in on one in particular. You've also got the props of like the over-under offensive linemen drafted in the first round, cornerback, safeties, all of those. If there's a particular player you think might sneak into the round one, you've got numbers on those players. An interesting one, too, if you think we're going to have some action, plus 150 on over 1.5 trades within the top 10 picks. The wide receiver drafted is interesting. Jordan Tyson's been a real climber. He's minus 105. Carnell Tate from Ohio State's the other guy at minus 130. It really seems like it's those two guys and then everybody else. And then tight ends, wideouts, running backs, all of those. The running backs drafted in the first round is interesting. It seems like it's Love, and then no one else will go until later. Plus 440 if there was another one. So listen, if you want to dive into the draft, have a little fun, put a couple sprinkles on, Cool Bet is locked and loaded for round number 1. And I would imagine tomorrow afterwards, certainly there won't be the same amount of offerings as you have going into round 1. But things will reset. There'll probably be some new props for particular players that lasted out of the first round. And maybe some other players that we expect to be day 2 picks, like a Carson Beck, as to where he ends up.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the team puts together tomorrow for, the second day. You like to dial in on the quarterbacks in that second day, right? When are these next guys going to go? Does Ty Simpson go in the first round? Maybe he's going to go early second round, or Carson Beck, like you mentioned, to be like kind of the third guy off the board. So yeah, plenty to choose from draft wise tonight. I think there's, a lot that can happen. Will your team move up? Will your team move down? I'm really intrigued by all the things that could happen tonight. And this, you already mentioned this, Jordan Tyson. He's been flying up the board today. I didn't really hear his name a whole lot. It sounded like it was going to be Tate as the first wide receiver off the board, but our guy Finner, who works at Coolbet, he was kind of eyeing him at 5 for the Giants. He's a big Giants fan. He's got 2 picks in the top 10, so he would love to see a guy like Jordan Tyson come off the board with the Giants at 5, but. It's all going to depend on, how the chips fall, what teams needs. Do teams move up? Do teams move down? You can never fully predict it, but it's a lot of fun to go back and forth on, no doubt.
Now, Jake, before we go, as a card-carrying longtime member of Patriots Nation, can we get a public comment from you on your scoundrel coach, Mike Vrabel, running around with Diana Rossini, and what was your reaction when we heard that he's going to not participate in day 3 of the NFL draft because he's going to be going to counseling? Maybe the most bizarre thing that I've ever heard, that for some reason this counseling session is going to happen to be on day 3 of the NFL draft. What a mess for Vrabes.
Yeah, the memes have been pretty good today, Huss. But not an ideal day for the head football coach of the New England Patriots. I mean, listen, you to root for this team does not come without controversy. I don't know if I could have predicted this one specifically. Obviously, not an ideal situation. I can't really sit here and pound the table for Braves and say this is a good look by any means. There's more pictures coming out now from years ago, and it seems like there's a lot more fuel on the fire right now when it comes to this Rossini Braves. Whatever we're calling it, I don't want to sit here and give it a name, but
let's call it a scandal.
Yeah, it's a scandal for sure. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pound the table and say, he's an innocent man. Obviously, it's pretty damning evidence. I'm missing day 3, not the end of the world. I mean, they got football guys in there to take care of the draft. It is weird that this therapy happens to fall, or this counseling happens to fall on the 3rd day of the NFL draft, but at the same time, maybe it is time to get a little bit of counseling and try to dial it back in as a head football coach of my favorite football team. And we've seen the drama over the years with this team, Huss. I mean, you think about the owner and whatever was going on down in Florida. You see Belichick gets fired. He's got Belichick's got a girlfriend in North Carolina, and he's coaching their football team. And Brady and Deflategate and Spygate. Listen, it's never a dull moment in Patriot Nation. We're just trying to win the next Super Bowl, Huss. That's all we're worried about right now.
Hey, listen, just Vrabel learned it all from the best, and Coach Belichick. And we move on from there. Jake, great stuff. Can't wait for the draft tonight and all the hockey. We're going to take a big swing tonight on those 3 goal scorers. Tim Stützle in the Canes Sens, Alex Tuck in the Bruins Sabres, and Marty Nakash in the Avalanche and the Kings. That's going to be a big number, bigger than 22-1. That will be up in the combo cards a little bit later on. Jake, good luck with the picks tonight for the draft. Enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Huss. Great chat.
Good stuff. There it is. JBM. Give him a follow on X at Jake Boland Moss, and make sure you're following at Coolbet Canada for all the promos. Let's get Remis in here before we're done. Reem, we have not spoken as much about this Vrabel thing on the program as much as I could talk about it for a long, long time. But this is getting messier and messier, with Page 6 dropping pictures of those 2 canoodling in a dimly lit New York bar from 6 years ago. And again, the bizarre announcement that Vrabel's going to go to counseling on day 3 of the NFL draft of all days.
Yeah, I was kind of tuned out of the Vrabel, Rossini drama after they were caught with holding hands at a pool in a resort. And then Page 6 came out today with photos from 6 years ago of them, getting close at a Tribeca.
Who was holding on to those for 6 years?
I have no idea. Maybe he's like, well, I took them. He's like, that's interesting, and held on to them for 6 years. I mean, look, just because you take a picture doesn't mean it has to go on the internet right away. And maybe he found a way to make some money, or they found a way to make some money by selling to Page Six. I don't know, but it was interesting to see that this meeting they had March 2020 at a bar, and she had a son born in November 2021 who was named Michael. And then she tweeted out, where was that tweet? From like 4 days after her son was born, saying, like, can you name any other, former NFL player, coaches named Michael? Like, it's getting, I don't know. It's a lot of coincidences happening right now. So I was not following the story that closely, but hard to look away. And yeah, the Patriots seem to have a number of off-field scandals in recent memory.
Well, and just bringing it back, I mean, Rossini, of course, was sort of the one that was reporting throughout the year about the dysfunction in Philly and A.J. Brown's potential trade. And it was always the Patriots that were mentioned. And that sort of heated up going into this week. So who knows, maybe we could see the A.J. Brown trade happen. And wouldn't that be interesting if it actually was to the New England Patriots? I'll say this, I don't think Coach Vrabel will be featured prominently tonight in the draft festivities for the Patriots. It should be fun, though. Couple picks for the Chiefs, the Jets, the Giants, big players. And for all you Raider fans out there, I love to take shots. I think you got a great one in Fernando Mendoza. And like I said, after the Indiana National Championship on the program, it's going to be really tough to hate this guy or try to hate this guy because he is such a likable dude going to, of all teams, the silver and black. NFL draft tonight, 3 games in the NHL, starting off with the Bruins and Sabres at 6:30, Canes and Sens, and then the Avalanche and the Los Angeles Kings. If you want to take the big swing with me on those goal props, the hat trick, that'll be up in the Cool Bet combo cards a little later on. Remo, big show tomorrow as we talk more hockey, playoffs. Rowicki's going to be in a great mood coming in tomorrow with the Flyers up 3-0. Ken's going to join us, and we'll have to do a little bit more on the big game tomorrow with the Manitoba Moose and the Milwaukee Admirals. Certainly was nice to have Parker Ford on the program. He's had a nice season.
Yeah, that was a nice goal for him, getting the Moose on the board. I thought that was going to be the beginning of a rally. Had a couple chances. Brad Lambert, he put one off the crossbar, had a really nice rush as well, with time winding down in the game. But it was the other Matthew Murray, undrafted free agent. Played 4 games with Dallas, not Cup champion Matt Murray. I had to look that one up when I saw
it's confusing. Goalies with the same name.
I mean, you could do a whole trivia. There's like 2 Max Muncie's in MLB right now. On the Dodgers and the Athletics, and I didn't realize that until this year somehow. But hey, back to the Moose. I'm looking forward to seeing what the lineup is tomorrow. Elias Salmonson could be a huge boost. Any other lineup changes? And you guys talked about this Lucas Wallen, college free agent, was top performer for the Moose last night. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they can extend it because, Sunday, 2 p.m. for Game 3, that is going to be a massive crowd for the Moose.
Yeah, well, listen, hopefully they can get it there. But first things first, tomorrow, Friday night, again, link in the chat, link in the description of both the podcast and the YouTube channel to get a little friends and family discount from WST. $17 to get in the building. It was a fun one tonight. Just didn't go the Moose way. Hopefully they can get a win tomorrow. We'll talk about that. We'll talk Jets off season, Stanley Cup playoffs, NFL draft with Hacksaw. Big show coming up tomorrow. Don't miss it. 1 p.m. Thanks again to Joe Yerdon, Coach Paul LaPolice, Mike McIntyre, Parker Ford, and Jake Bowen-Moss. And of course, thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. You all have a great night. Enjoy this beautiful weather and all the sports action tonight, and we'll break it all down for you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here live on YouTube on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.